Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, let's go. Kevin here, top 1 financial advisor and best-selling author. We are here to talk about the stock market. Renting versus buying. It is the biggest personal finance beef and it's been around since the dawn of time. But in today's video, I'm going to break down which one could be best for you and why so many people look at this debate in the wrong way. Alright, but first, before I do, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. For those that don't know and could be new to the channel, my name is Kevin Matthews. I'm a former financial advisor and former teacher. I am a 3-time Pulitzer Award winner and a 2-time best-selling author. My first degree was economics. My second degree was my master's from UT Austin in business. So, I'm going to look at this perhaps a bit differently than just some random finance creator. Alright, so more background here. I wrote a whole article about this in Business Insider, broke down all the math on the actual home that I have. So I am a homeowner, but I still favor renting in some ways. So I'm going to break that down and give you a framework, if you will, on how to look at this. So let's first start off with the benefits of homeownership. It's the American dream. You have equity. You can sell the home. You can do all the stuff that you want to do. You want to cut down a tree? You can do that. You want to redo a deck? You can do that. Plant flowers, all that stuff. You have almost no rules except for the HOA. That is a thing. But you have the pride of ownership. That is the thing, right? The thing I enjoy most about owning a home is I don't have to worry about people living above me or below me, and I don't have to worry about noise or any of that stuff. I'm teaching myself to play trumpet. I can play as loud as I want. Don't nobody give a damn, okay? Also, I can grill, right? I lived in New York. I had an apartment, an expensive one at that, and I couldn't own a grill. There was nowhere I could put it. I didn't have a balcony. I didn't have a driveway. That was it, right? But the benefits of home ownership, I can do all that stuff and not really care about nothing, right? That is the benefit of it. Now it also has some drawbacks, and we'll get to those in a few minutes. Now, renting, some homeowners will say that renting is throwing away money. At the end of 30 years, you have nothing, and you just squandered your life away. That's not necessarily the case. There are some serious benefits to renting, and depending on your situation, it could be a lot better for you. Number one, if you're not going to be in an area for, let's say, 5 years, it don't really make sense to buy. But the benefit is when something breaks down, you don't have to pay it. If you feel like something's getting too expensive in the area or you get a job offer somewhere else, you can leave. You can just up and leave. Sometimes you can break a lease. Sometimes it's helpful. Sometimes it's not. But you have that option. If I got a job offer in California and I had to pick up and leave, it's not that easy for me to do that. Now, will I have the opportunity to rent the home? Perhaps so, and that may be beneficial for me. Or maybe I could just get up and leave had I been renting. For example, in my own personal life, I've lived in Dallas, okay? Lived in Dallas for about 2 years. I lived in St. Louis for 9 months. That was it, just 9 months. Then I moved to New York. I was there for about 4 years or so. Came back to Dallas for 6 months. Came to North Carolina. Like, I bounced around a lot right after college, and buying a home would not have worked out for me. That would have been an awful investment because of all the fees and things I would have had to pay every single time. And I didn't really plan out all those moves initially. I planned on being there for much longer than I was in every single scenario in each of those places. Okay, so renting can make sense. It's not always throwing money away. But here is the part where most people don't really pay attention to. There are 2 questions when you're coming to renting versus buying. There is, which option is cheaper for me and which one can I make the most money? Those give you different answers, and that is where I want to focus this question, okay? If you're staying in an area for 5 to 7 years or more, buying a home is cheaper, and it's about 35% cheaper according to most studies, okay? Cheaper, meaning that my mortgage is going to be $2,000, your rent is going to be $2,000. But over time, that $2,000 becomes $2,100, $2,200, so on and so forth. And after 30 years, I would have saved money. I would have saved money by buying a home compared to someone who is renting. Okay, that's relatively simple. I think most of us get that because when you get a mortgage, it is usually pretty flat. That's it. Okay, for the most part. Okay, all right, I would have saved money buying a home in most cases if I'm going to stay there for long enough. But who can make the most money? Now you might be thinking, well, Kevin, obviously you own the home, you sell the home, you make more money. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. However, that's not always the way you should look at it, because it's really, if you are in the position to buy a home, right, in the position that I was in 2 or 3 years ago, it's really about the opportunity cost, and that's what I want to focus on. So, in this example, and it's the same one that I walked through the article, let's say that you're looking to buy a $400,000 home, and you put in $40,000 for the down payment on the home. After 30 years, you would have the value of the home is going to be $1.3 million. But remember, you are going to pay approximately 1% of the home's value in maintenance costs. So in a $400,000 home situation, you're going to spend about $4,000 every year on maintenance. That actually tracks. That actually tracks, because I'm getting my deck redone. That's going to cost me $2,000. That's just one expense. Last year, I had to get my garage done. The spring broke. That was $800. Plus, the yard guy who used to come, that was $200 a month, right? Twice a week, right? So that's $200 a month times 30, and you can do all the math there, but that's going to cost you some money. So think about this. Buy the home for $400,000. 30 years is worth $1.3 million. I sell the home. How much money do I make off of that? Let you think about it. Then you're probably going to say $900,000. If you said $900,000, you would be incorrect. That is because most homeowners don't do the math correctly. What do I mean by this? Don't forget that $4,000 every year, you got to count that over 30 years. The mortgage, yeah, I'd take a loan on it, right? If I put in for $40,000 for the down payment, there had to be a loan there of what, $360,000 times the 2%, 3%, whatever the mortgage rate was at that point in time. Again, all these numbers are inside the Business Insider article, but I spent roughly, what is it, $550, almost $560,000, which means that the profit at the end of the day is roughly $600,000. Okay, $600,000 is going to be a profit after 30 years if all of those things play out the way that we expect them to. And for context, the average home, since about 1991, grows at about 3 to 4% per year. And in this example, we're talking 4% a year. Okay, so after all the cost, after being in the home for 30 years, doing all that stuff, counting all the maintenance, doing all the things required over 30 years, my profit at the end of the day is $617,000. Okay, put that in a box. How much money would I have made if I rented? Because this conversation is about opportunity cost. Opportunity cost. What could I have done with that money? So, what money are we talking about? If I took the $40,000 and said, look, I have the money, I don't want to buy a home, I'm going to put this in the S&P 500. I'm going to invest that money instead. I go and do that. Now, I also say, well, opportunity cost, right? The benefit of me renting is that I do not have to pay the $4,000 I would have paid, because I'm not paying for any maintenance, right? If I'm renting a house, if I'm renting an apartment, something breaks, I don't have to pay for it. So let's say I invested $40,000 and I say, well, I'm going to go ahead and put $4,000 every year into this investment. After 30 years, how much would I have? At the end of all of that, your profit is $1.8 million. $1.8 million if I had taken the opportunity cost value, what I would not have paid versus what I would have paid had I bought a home. And you might be thinking, well, what about the increases in rent? Yeah, your rent could increase. You could also move, right? You can move to a different town, different city, different part of the town, and your cost could be the same or cheaper or rise marginally. That's not going to make up the gap from $1.8 million to $600,000. So yeah, you could end up a lot wealthier by not owning a home. Now, you may be thinking, well, yeah, the cost of rent, what is that? That's the same as any expense in the scenario. You are going to pay whether you're owning a home or you are going to rent. You have to have a roof over your head. That is going to be canceled out in either case. But if you're looking for profit, if you're absolutely looking for profit, then renting can be, keyword, can be a bad scenario. But the only way that works is if you actually invest the money and if you actually had the down payment to begin with. Because if you don't, the situation is moot, right? It doesn't matter if that's the case. So it's always going to depend on what are your options. What are the options that you have? Because if you don't have the down payment, then you are going to buy the home anyway, right? And you're going to have to rent. That is going to be a factor. Are you going to stay in that area for 5 years or more? That is going to depend. What is the rental market where you are? What is the housing market where you are? When I lived in New York, the average regular house, I was in Manhattan, was $2 million. That wasn't gonna work for me. Okay, that was not going to work for me. But also on the other side of the coin, moving from New York to North Carolina, my rent in New York, it was a nice little 2-bedroom brownstone. And when I say nice in New York, we had a dishwasher and we had a washer and dryer and we had 1.5 bathroom. Now, if you from New York, you know that is fancy. So in either case, moving from New York and coming here and owning an entire house saved me $1,000 a month. So it depends on where you are, where you want to go. Do you want to own in that area? Do you want to rent in that area? All of those things are going to have to be compared. But at the end of the day, the question is, are you looking for the cheaper option? Or are you looking for the option that's going to make you the most money? The last thing I'll say is this. You don't have to make money through your home. I don't know why that's a scenario that we always think you have to do. Number one, homeowners, I'm sorry. We are not great at doing all the math that it takes. Because again, if you answered 900,000 earlier, you wouldn't count none of those maintenance costs at all. And it does count. It does absolutely count at the end of the day, but most people aren't always looking at that. And you have to really consider those things when you're telling people or telling your timeline that, hey, here's how much money I made and real estate is the best investment ever. It's not always the case. I'm not saying that it can't be. I'm not saying that it can't be, but it is not always the case. So you want to be very, very careful and considerate about it. Just because you rent does not mean that you're throwing money away. And just because you own does not mean you are the best investor ever. Okay. My choice for buying a home is because I got 2 kids. Okay. At the end of the day, I got 2 kids and they are heavy footed. Okay. They make a lot of noise and that's fine. That's what kids do. But I won't have to worry and police my kids just because they're kicking the wall or jumping around or whatever. I have to deal with neighbors right on top of me. That's too much stress for me. It made more sense for me to have a space and have some grass, have them run around and play trumpet and grill and do whatever it is I want to do. Now it's going to cost me, but that was the best decision for me. And you have to make the best decision for you and where you are. And that decision may evolve over time. And that is something that is important because if I were single, I would probably rent. I would probably rent and invest all that extra money, but I'm not. Right? I'm married, I got 2 kids. Makes more sense to own a home for us right now. And because we feel like we're going to be here for 5+ years, it'll probably be cheaper for us to do that. Even though we could have taken that money and invested it and probably been more wealthy. But is that the lifestyle that I wanted to live? That answer was no. Not in my situation. Single? Yes. Family? That's a lot. Cramped up 4 people in any apartment, in any space in America, just wasn't going to work for me. Okay, so it really depends on what you're looking for, what's your lifestyle, and again, are you looking to have something that's cheaper, which is fine, less expensive, is probably a better word, or are you trying to make the most money? Okay, that is the thing that you want to look for at the end of the day and the questions that you have to answer at the end of the day. All right, that is it for me. I will talk to y'all later. Before you go, 2 things, two quick things. Go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Okay, you are already here. Go ahead and hit that because 75% of y'all do not. And yes, YouTube gives me stats. 75% of y'all not subscribing. This is your opportunity to do so. And then lastly, make sure that you check out our members only. We do exclusive deep dive breakdowns inside our members only. We break down undervalued stocks, how to analyze stocks, and exclusive questions that you guys ask and say, hey, look, I really want you to look into this stock. What are your thoughts about it? And it's all inside our members only. Just yesterday, I broke down my top 5 value stocks and showed our members exactly what the stock is at the time that we posted that post and what is the value of it, and showed you some undervalued opportunities that could be very, very amazing investments in the next several years. All right, that is it for me. I will talk to you later. Bye.